And welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who will never be betting on the Cowboys ever again. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good, yeah. I had some pretty big comments on that one on Wednesday, so just don't go back and listen to that show.
I actually checked it out. It's a lot of fun hearing us, like, not even being able, can't even figure out how the Cardinals could have a chance in it.
Yeah. They're doing some good stuff. Good stuff there, but it was the that was a brutal game. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, so we will get into all of this. If you can tell, if you're watching the video feed, I am currently at my new house, which is very exciting, except I don't have any setup whatsoever, which is why it looks like a mess right now. Also, sorry if there's some echo. I don't know how much that comes through, but hopefully it's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad. I mean, there's a little echo. It's not bad. You said your house looks like a mess right now. It looks like an empty house right now. It looks like you're squatting in the place. There's just blinds behind it.
Well, I mean, like it's a messy look in terms of how the presentation looks like a mess. Super chat from Joe. Early hot take: Tua for MVP, McDaniel for Coach of the Year. Plus, Cardinals now have a special place in my heart. Yeah. Hey, I said Tua MVP after week 1. There's room on the hype train.
He's playing some great football. We'll get to that one too in a second. There's a lot to talk about this week.
Yes.
And as we transition into this Sunday night game, the biggest takeaway for me from this entire week was there's a lot of bad quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you only watch the Chargers and Vikings, you probably watched a bad quarterback this week. And that was just encapsulated by the end of this game where, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's 3 interceptions were basically just thrown right to defenders. Now, the last one, it's like the end of the game. You're trying to pull something out of nothing. You're just throwing the ball downfield. But some pretty terrible throws. And honestly, if it wasn't for the Pittsburgh defense and special teams deciding to make this game interesting, this would have been over by the third quarter. Like, they didn't play that well. They got a bunch of flags at the end that continued some drives and got some touchdowns out of it. But I imagine what this Vegas team is without Devontae Adams, and it's a sad sight because this is a bad football team.
Yeah, Devontae Adams is amazing. Joey Myers, I think, has been a really good signing for them. He's worked really well. Their third highest receiver in this game, Josh Jacobs, with 18 yards. Definitely, outside of kind of those two guys, they have struggled. Like you said, the interceptions from Garoppolo. Yeah, it was just one of those weird games where it felt like this was all Pittsburgh. We're all wondering, why was this even a primetime game? Which I'm still kind of wondering why this is the primetime game. But then, it was because it's 23-7 in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden the Raiders get a couple drives going due to some penalties, but still they're able to get a couple drives going. And Josh McDaniels can't help himself. He keeps calling these field goals.
Yeah. Big field goal guy at the end of that game. he was even gifted the penalty to continue that drive. And had a chance
I thought it was so over once that happened. I was convinced.
Yeah, very bizarre. And, I mean, Steelers still technically gave him a chance at the end of the game, but, there was 12 seconds left. But I don't know what he was expecting because at that point he had one timeout left. Or no, sorry. They got one first down and he had one timeout left. But still, your defense isn't good. I know that they played kind of well in this game, but we've seen what Pittsburgh's offense has been this season. And I think that's more of a product of the Pittsburgh offense than your defense. And you're expecting your defense to get a stop at the biggest point of the game instead of just going for it on fourth and what was it? Fourth and
I think the first was 4th and 1, and the second was 4th and 4.
Right. 4th and 4 at the Pittsburgh 8. You're not getting down to the 8-yard line again.
Yeah.
Because your defense can't get stops. It made no sense from top to bottom.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I understand the logic. You're down 8, so you don't know if it's a one-possession game or not. But I'm with you. You need a touchdown regardless. Even if it's not a one-possession game, you still are going to need a touchdown at a certain point. Yeah, I mean, it was, I think from the Pittsburgh perspective, their defense does seem to be pretty good. That's kind of what we've seen so far through 3 weeks. San Francisco, I'm not going to hold it against them, not playing particularly well. And I think Kenny Pickett looked actively bad week 1. I think weeks 2 and 3, he's still not maybe where we want to see him. I think this was probably his best game so far against a lower level of competition, but he still made some nice throws despite the fact that Pittsburgh still can't seem to get guys open consistently.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the offense is hindering him, but at the same time, you still need to see some of those throws happen, right? Like I did think the Freiermuth throw was nice for the touchdown. That Calvin Austin throw, obviously he was kind of open, but he made a nice play there. And then Pickens makes an exciting play or two basically every game, but this offense just feels so stagnant. Like everything looks so slow with this team, and maybe it is because Najee Harris feels like the slowest running back of all time, but everything just looks like it's moving in slow motion sometimes, and that just isn't a good way to play football.
Yeah, it's funny. On the Calvin Austin touchdown, the safety was just on the left side of the field. Like he was like well past the hash marks, and that's covering Pickens. Like Pickens is the guy that they need to get more. They just need to get more there. And I don't know if it's coaching or what, but again, Pittsburgh, they're going to run the ball, not effective. They're going to run the ball ineffectively. They're going to play good defense. They're going to get just enough passing plays, hopefully, and they're at least a playoff contender at this point in the season.
I mean, they have to be. They're 2-1, and I mean, this defense feels like I've watched a lot of teams that I feel like so far through these first 3 weeks, it's like, yeah, their defense is going to keep them in a lot of games, but it goes back to my point where we need some of these quarterbacks, it feels like, in some of these offenses to really step up, because there's a lot of good defenses right now, and I don't know if just these defensive teams are going to cut it.
Yeah, completely agree. Let's move on. Why don't we? Because this is a great slate. A lot of interesting games to talk about. Let's go with one that we talked about it earlier. Let's just get into it. Cowboys Cardinals. I mean, Kyle, you and I had a points bet entering this week. We bet 1 point. You bet me a point that the Cowboys would win by 20 or more points in this game. They lose outright by 12. I'm going to start off with this. Stop with the Micah Parsons is the best player and best defensive player in football talk. You can't be the best player in football if teams are actively making a strategy to run the ball your way and win a football game that way. You're not seeing teams run the ball at Myles Garrett and be able to take him out of the game that way. You can't be the best player in football defensively if it's that team's active strategy to attack you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a poor game. I mean, it was a poor game for a lot of Dallas players. Parsons also, is held to the standard as one of the best in the league and didn't perform like it. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely deserving of some criticism. I mean, it was just we criticized the Giants for barely beating the Cardinals, so we got to criticize the Cowboys a lot for losing to the Cardinals, right? I mean, this was just a pathetic performance from top to bottom. I mean, they didn't execute. They looked lackadaisical for the first part of the game. And, this Cardinals team, we keep saying it week after week. Like, I still don't think they're going to win a lot of games, but they're showing up and competing and trying their ass off. And, I think part of the credit here has to go out to Jonathan Gannon. I think,
what a tough week for you having to credit Jonathan Gannon. This was the worst game of your career.
I know it wasn't great, but he to his credit, he seems to be preparing this team really well to play. It seems like they have a good approach to all of these games. They don't look overwhelmed in the moment. They look like they were, have a good game plan, and he's making the right calls. So far, I don't think it's going to be a successful season, but he's done some pretty good stuff in this, these first couple weeks of the season. So you got to give him some credit, and you got to give some, criticism to the Cowboys for letting this happen to them, because there is no way around it. I mean, if you stack these rosters up, the Cowboys are, the Trevon Diggs injury stinks. We all hate that kind of thing to happen. But if you stack these rosters up, the Cowboys might be better at every position group. And they lost this game by double digits. That's inexcusable.
Yeah, well, here's what I was thinking. I think in hindsight, there's something we should have thought of on the pregame show, which is the Cardinals have been running the ball effectively. And what do we kind of have? What has been the trend for years now with this Dallas team is that not the best run defense, and I think it really got exposed in this game. I mean, there was plays where the Cardinals were purposely leaving guys unblocked, and those unblocked guys still couldn't. Like there was like a 40-yard touchdown. There's 3 unblocked guys. One of you has to within 40 yards be able to make a play there. Like there were there's just issues with this Dallas defense, and it's just I don't know. I was finally to talk. I never talk myself into the Cowboys. I'm always like, no, that's the media hype. This is the one year I was kind of starting to do it, and it's just like this is what they do. They're a flawed team, and they can win a Super Bowl with this roster. I believe that. I believe they can win a Super Bowl with this roster, but they need to get the right bounces come postseason time, which just usually doesn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not writing this team off over one game. I mean, that would be silly. But at the same time, they do have some things that they have to clean up. Obviously, it's hard to criticize a team when they're outscoring teams 70-10 through their first 2 weeks. So this is the first time we really see them kind of get exposed. So there's a lot of things that they have to clean up. And it starts with, like you said, the defense. The run defense has to be better. They have to be filling their gaps. They have to fill in the right spots. They can't just run around. And, I think part of the brilliance of this Cowboys defense is a lot of guys can play with like sort of this chaotic energy. And I don't think it really helps their run defense, right? Like, because they're in the wrong spots. They're trying to make these big splash plays that, it's easy to Rondale Moore to just run past everybody for a 40-yard touchdown or whatever it was. So that needs to improve. And then the other thing that needs to improve is Mike McCarthy again. Because, we talked about, we haven't really got a chance to really like evaluate his in-game play calling. The big storyline this offseason was taking over the offensive plays. Well, you took over the offensive plays and you were 1 of 5 in the red zone in this game. And you didn't look close to scoring on a lot of those possessions too, as far as like getting touchdowns. And, that's just not going to cut it. That's not good enough. And, it was just a bizarre performance because they had a lot of possessions that they got into the red zone by basically isolating their good receivers against the weaker Cardinals secondary. And then they just decided to stop doing those plays in the red zone. They stopped isolating those receivers in one-on-one situations and couldn't convert on those plays. And they went 1 of 5 in the red zone and didn't score and got a lot of field goals.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just like, I don't know. It wasn't even obvious to me. Like, I think usually when these upsets happen, it's like the good team. Maybe they expected a win playing Arizona. I don't know. But it just, the turnover battle was 0-0 up until that final interception to ice it for Dak. Like, the Cardinals won the yards per play battle by two full yards. Like, this was the Cardinals were the better team today.
It was a butt kicking. It was a really good job. Kudos to the Cardinals.
How about Josh Dobbs?
I know. He is definitely earning himself another contract, whether it's at Arizona or somewhere else. He's going to be a good backup quarterback for a long time now.
Yeah, definitely. Any final thoughts on this one?
No, we can move on.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about so many interesting games. How about I, for one, welcome our new Jordan Love overlord as the Green Bay Packers. The story of this game was written, right? It was written. The Packers struggled. It's yet another time when a Dennis Allen Saints defense makes a young quarterback look stupid. It happens. No big deal. We'll see what happens next week. Derek Carr gets injured. And all of a sudden, almost like a switch went off, this Packers offense starts getting going. And even when they didn't, they had a long drive where they didn't score before they started scoring, end up, despite not scoring in the first 3 quarters, put up 18 in the fourth, are able to win 18-17. Matt LaFleur with the good decision of when you're down 14, score a touchdown, go for 2 the first time. It worked out. Jordan Love, certainly another up and down day. I still want to see more consistency for him. But as of right now, you have to be having a blast if you're a Packers fan watching him play.
Yeah. There were some high-level throws there. I mean, it wasn't all perfect. The interception was an arm punt. It wasn't that big of a deal. But at the same time, there was some
missed throw, though.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he overthrew him. But
yeah, the decision was fine. The throw itself wasn't great.
It was an arm punt.
Okay, that's all I don't know. I like arm punts to have a chance to be caught, but fine. Agree to disagree.
Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, there's some definite misses there, but there were some high level throws down the stretch. I mean, how bizarre of a game was this? They were down 17-0 at the half. They didn't score a touchdown until 6:58 left in this game, and they win at 18-17. Really bizarre game, like you said. And it. Yeah, I mean he played well down the stretch, so I'm giving him credit there. I still think there's things to improve upon, and I think a lot of it would start with getting his number one receiver back, which is supposed to
Yeah.
happen next week, I guess. But that would go a long way because there are some really good catches from the other receivers, and if they have a guy like Christian Watson at the top, maybe that starts to kind of make things easier for him too early in these games.
Yeah, it certainly should help out the offense at the very least, if nothing else. Yeah, I mean, to me, my biggest issue with Love still is like I think he's a little bit slow in certain reads, and he still misses some throws. I don't think he's ever going to be a perfectly accurate quarterback. I just don't think that's his game. I think he's someone who he misses throws. Like that's always been his game. I don't think he's going to all of a sudden never miss a throw. You just hope the good outweighs the bad, and so far through 3 weeks, it has. And just it's just a very exciting time, and also. One guy we have to give a shout out as well. Rashawn Gary, 3 sacks. He's about to get a ton of money.
Yeah, he had a fantastic game, and this Packers defense really did play well. We had questioned their run defense again. They step up in this one. I mean, there's no Alvin Kamara, but at the same time, like we just saw the Saints run game, kind of have a big day with that Taysom Hill offense and that kind of thing, and they were able to limit that effectiveness too. So they did some good things there and, made some plays down the stretch. So it was a big win for the Packers and I would say, frustrating loss for the Saints as well.
Yeah, I would almost go as far as say devastating loss for the Saints. I mean, the good news is it doesn't seem like the Derek Carr injury is overly serious. So he's going to miss some time, but he's not going to miss like the whole season. So that's good. But that, in a way, that almost makes this loss even that much tougher because, Jameis coming in, I didn't think he was a disaster, but the offense got worse once he was out there. It just did. There was a lot of 3 and outs. They punted every single drive until the missed field goal drive at the end once Jameis Winston was out there. They needed to, a great way to prevent comebacks is to continue to, drive the ball offensively. They're now 2-1. They could have been 3-0. Carr is going to be out for some time. What are they going to do without him? This is a team that, I was kind of almost starting to talk myself into not just a playoff team, but maybe like a, contender, when they're up 17-0 with this defense playing the way it was, with Carr playing the way it was. Who knows? It is just one game, but it's tough. Also, a super chat, Jordan Love for MVP. Now, that's a take.
That's a bit of a hot take. He is playing well though, or he played well at the end of this game. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I mean, this team had been struggling to score touchdowns to begin with, and now they're losing their quarterback. I just don't know how well it's going to work. I mean, I don't think the offense had been that bad the first 2 weeks, but they weren't scoring was the problem. And now, you're coming up on potentially no Carr for next week against Tampa and the week after against New England. I mean, those aren't defenses you want to go against with your backup quarterback.
Right.
And depending on how long he's going to be out, I think could really kind of hinder our hopes for this team because, they still got to make the playoffs. I do think they're still the most talented team in the NFC South, despite the NFC South rolling right now. I do think they're the most talented team in the NFC South, but, if he's out a certain amount of time, it's hard not to write this team off because I just I'm not a believer in, Jameis being able to kind of handle this workload.
Hey, who knows with Jameis Winston? He'll give you everything. Good games, bad games in between. We'll see what he does.
Did his arm look worse to you?
I don't. I didn't pick up on that, but possibly.
It felt like there was some lame duck throws, and I just felt like when I watched Jameis, there was a lot of things to criticize Jameis for. It wasn't for weak arm talent.
Yeah. If he doesn't have the arm talent, we're in trouble here.
Yeah, that's for sure. There was some bad looking throws out there in this game, I thought. Maybe I was just overthinking it.
Speaking of bad looking, the Denver Broncos gave up 70 points in this game. Kyle, the Miami Dolphins had 5 rushing touchdowns and 5 passing touchdowns. Their overall 726 total yards, the most in an NFL game. They had over 10 yards per play. Their average play went for a first down in this game. Just going to read off some numbers here. Tua, 23 for 26 for 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Mike White, 2 for 2, 67 yards and a touchdown. He only threw the ball twice, had 67 yards. Devin Achane, 203 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert was their number 2 rusher in this game with 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 157 yards and a touchdown. Chosen Anderson, formerly known as Robbie Anderson, had a touchdown and 68 yards, a 68-yard touchdown. This went well for Miami.
Yeah. This was, one of the most incredible offensive displays we've ever seen, right? This was incredible. Has there ever been a better advertisement to start vaping than watching some of Mike McDaniel's play designs? That's incredible stuff. I think everybody should start vaping now. Just kidding, kids. Yeah, this was sensational. 10.2 yards per play on 71 plays is ungodly impressive. I don't even know what to say. It was amazing. This is one of the best performances we're ever going to see in our lifetimes.
Yeah, and legitimately could have set the all-time points record in a game. They decided not to kick a field goal at the end, which would have broken the record. Also, an unrelated super chat. So, I'm late, but Jimmy G didn't sign himself. Mark Davis said he didn't have enough cash on hand to pay off McDaniel's severance package. Raiders are broke. Help, my team is dying. Prayers to Broncos fans, though. Yeah, at least you're not a Denver Broncos fan. Could be worse, Romeo.
Yeah, thanks for the super chat, but maybe you should have sent it to Mark Davis if you're that concerned about the buyout.
Yeah, I think Mark Davis could use that money a little bit more. Yeah, but no, one of the greatest performances of all time. You're absolutely right, and I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about my Dolphins going to the Super Bowl take. I have to say, things are going well through 3 weeks. I'm not going to do a victory lap just yet, but I will. Why not? Sports are fun. I'm going to enjoy it now.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Listen, the Super Bowls aren't won in September. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys because everyone was anointing them last week. And yeah, they're playing great football. Everything the most impressive thing about this team right now is even just this game aside, because this went bonkers. The last 2 weeks now, they have run the ball very well. And if you're going to say what was the next step for this Dolphins team, it was kind of running the ball a little bit. So the onus wasn't squarely on Tua in this passing game, which it kind of was the first year of this go round with him and McDaniel. And he played well, so give him credit for that. But if they're able to run the ball too and kind of blend this a little bit, it's game over. It's game over for defenses. I don't know how you stop this if they're able to run the ball and throw the ball as efficiently as they had 2 quarterbacks, so I've nearly perfect passer ratings in this game. And they had a 200-yard rusher. If they're able to do that, there's no defense that's stopping this.
And another running back that had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. So, everything about this game was sensational for the Miami side. They should feel great about it. Obviously, we're not writing them to the Super Bowl yet, but Tua is playing like the best quarterback in football right now for 3 weeks. I don't think it's a debate at this point, and this offense looks like the best offense in football through 3 weeks.
You know who's not playing like the best quarterback in football? The guy who is still owed. If he were to be cut today, there'd be $107 million in dead cap. Russell Wilson, who's basically locked into this team for a while now. Next year if they cut him, it'd be $85 million. Obviously, he wasn't the issue in this one. This game got out of hand in a hurry. What are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know how you blame him. But, this Broncos defense was actively good last year. This was a good Broncos defense that we kept hyping up. Defense is just so fluky. And I get that, there are personnel changes and stuff. But, how does this happen to this team that we thought going into the year, even with their offense, if you told me right off the bat the Broncos would be, relatively good, above average at points per drive, I'd be like, oh, they're probably 3-0 to start the year, not 0-3.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I didn't even think it was that good of a Russell Wilson game. His numbers, I think, are better than what he displayed. But this game did get away from kind of everybody. So they had more opportunities to do those sort of things. But, yeah, he wasn't awful. his defense, didn't help him in this game. And like you said, the offense has had some success this season, but it's just not enough. It's not enough success, and it's not enough for a team that's building around a $200+ million quarterback. You need more from him. It's not good enough. And, if you're going to build around that expensive of a quarterback, you expect a certain standard of play to kind of make up for that salary cap space. And he's not performing to that level. And I don't think he's going to.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be there for at least another year. I mean, at a certain point, you might just cut him just to get all the dead cap out of the way 1 year, and then you can move on. I don't know, and like just have a full-blown tanking year.
Maybe. I think it's 2026 is their first out, right? Like they have to keep him at least for 2 years after this.
Yeah, I mean, you always can cut him, but then you're paying him. Again, if they were to cut him this offseason, they're paying him $85 million, whereas his cap hit would only be $35 million. So you're giving him an extra $50 million essentially to not play football for you, which might be the right strategy if he doesn't get better.
Yeah, yeah, it might be, and they could be in a position to draft a quarterback. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. We'll see what happens with Russell Wilson. But I do think the story of this game should be not Russell Wilson. It should be Miami's spectacular. Miami's offense is rolling, and they have cemented themselves right now as the favorites in the AFC. It's only September, so that doesn't mean anything. But they have cemented themselves as the favorites. They have a really formidable group.
Yeah. One last thought on them. What did you think about A-Chain? Yeah, great. I think we liked him a lot coming out of college. Looking great so far.
Yeah, checked all the boxes we expected. He is so quick out of that backfield. I'm really excited for his future. So between him and Mostert, that is a lot of speed coming out of that backfield. They got like the two fastest running backs and the two fastest receivers in football. It's just stupid how this happens.
Yeah, it's insane. Dolphins, such a fun team to watch. Another couple teams that are fun to watch for a different reason. Chargers, Vikings. This game could not be more Chargers versus Vikings, Kyle.
Oh my gosh, this was amazing. I honestly thought Brandon Staley might get fired if they lost after that fourth down play.
Yeah.
I thought they would have just fired him. And was this game in LA or Minnesota? It was in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just leave him in Minnesota. That was. I get it, 1 yard and you win the game, but come on, man. Holy crap, this game was mind-blowing. I mean, not only that, the Chargers had a 21-10 lead in this one, and Justin Herbert's playing out of his mind, and I'm still getting messages after they blow that 21-10 lead of, oh, it's Justin Herbert again. Justin Herbert, just the overrated quarterback again. Justin Herbert, there is no way you could. This was the best quarterback performance of the day that involved Tua throwing 4 touchdowns. Maybe the second best quarterback performance of the day. Tua was really good. But Justin Herbert was also phenomenal. 405 yards on 40 of 47 passing, 3 touchdowns. He was spectacular in this game. Keenan Allen was amazing in this game. Mike Williams was amazing in this game. Those 3 guys deserve none of the criticism ever again for any Chargers performance, because I know those 3 guys don't suck. Everybody else on this team sucks, and that's why they lose almost every one of these games. But those 3 guys came up and performed, and they performed at the end of this game, and that's why they won it. So stop trying to criticize those 3 players. Criticize everyone else. I don't care.
The leading rusher for the Chargers was Joshua Kelly, who had 12 yards on 11 carries. It's 1.1 yard per carry, and he was the leading rusher for the Chargers. The running game, not exactly a great blend. Alexander Madison, he lost another fumble there, but had a good game for the most statistically at the very least. Had some blunders as well. Jefferson and Hawkinson got banged up at a certain point. Also, a super chat. Sean Payton definitely wished he waited for the LA job. Poor Sean Payton. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
I know, right? Mm-hmm. Classic good guy.
Back to the Chargers Vikings. I mean, there were so many just I can't believe that happened moments in this game.
Yeah. And it all kind of, was capped off by the very ending with the fourth down play, the interception, and all that. I mean, these are just 2 deeply flawed teams. And like we said kind of before, they're kind of the same team. And not even just in the ironic, they lose really dumb fashion way. They're kind of the same team in that they are built somewhat similarly. Like they both have really good receivers. Look at Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer compared to Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, I still think is the best of that group, but that's a good group of receivers. And I think Kirk Cousins and Justin Herbert both played exceptionally well in this game. But I think if you look at everything else in this game, it's like both of these teams have terrible corners. Neither of these teams can cover. J.C. Jackson was a healthy scratch.
Yeah, we need to talk about
He's
that.
going to end up – yeah, I mean – he's going to end up back on the Patriots because we're so desperate for corners right now.
And he'll be an all-pro again.
Yeah, exactly. This will be a disaster. It's a complete disaster on this Chargers front with how they've assembled this roster. I don't know. They remind me of the Los Angeles Angels in so many ways, and I just think it keeps cropping up. It's just two teams that keep going after these stud players, and it doesn't work out for some reason when they end up on the second team of LA. The Clippers, Chargers, and Angels, they just need their own league or something like that because it's too depressing to watch them and cheer for them.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison. Yeah, I mean, at least J.C. Jackson, that contract's, I don't know, maybe it's just because I just looked at the Russell Wilson contract. It's a little bit manageable where if you cut him at the end of this, after this year, $15 million in dead cap, you can work with that. Obviously not ideal, but that seems like that's going to happen. Still crazy, though, that he was just a straight-up healthy scratch. And it was probably the right call because I thought this defense looked better than it has in previous weeks, and it still gave up 475 yards.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't good on either side. Did you think this game might end in a tie at some point or something like that? Like this game just felt like that was happening.
It deserved a tie. I think sometimes you just look at a game and like there should be a rule that says this is just we're gonna call it. It's just a tie.
Yeah. Certainly felt that way.
Yeah, I think so. But big win for the Chargers though. Chargers, they're not dead yet. They have the offense. I know that the defense has been a mess, but we've seen good offensive teams, do enough to get to the playoffs, even if their defense isn't great, including the Chargers in the past. Playing the Raiders next week, and then to play the Dallas Cowboys. That should be an interesting game. So they're not dead yet.
I mean, look, they are currently 1-2 with a point differential of -1. They are keeping in these close games, and there are winnable games on the schedule for this team. So they still have the talent to make things happen. There are just a lot of people, I think, for both of these teams who need to improve individually. And I think it also involves the coaching staff for both teams, but especially on the Chargers side. That's all gonna get better. So what do you do now if you're Minnesota at 0-3? You're now 2 games behind the 2 teams in your division that you're really chasing. And I mean, next week might be do or die, honestly.
Well, good news, they have Carolina. So that should hopefully, then they have Kansas City the week after, but then they have Chicago and then San Francisco. So a bit of a, up and down next 4 weeks for Minnesota. Almost feels like you have to go 3-1. Have to find a way to go 3-1 in that stretch. Potentially, but yeah, I agree. They're in a tough spot. Also, it is a bit hilarious. The Vikings, after going 11-0 in one-score games, they have now lost. Yeah, 0-3 to start. Of course that would happen.
Yeah, incredible. It's almost like analytics are sometimes right.
But that's not even analytics would say that it's like, or I guess you're saying, but you'd think you just revert to the mean it become a 500 team at once. Like it wouldn't go all the way back to the opposite way.
It's a larger sample size. It'll be 0-11, so it's 11-11. That's all.
It's not how that works, but okay. Let's move on. The Colts won a football game. Colts are 2-1 all of a sudden. Baltimore Ravens. A lot of people thought like this game they should sleepwalk. And when there was a controversy at the end of this game, as it was a pass interference that wasn't called right after a dropped pass that both of those should have gotten them on the outside of field goal range. Tucker missed a long field goal that would have won it in regulation. Kyle Hamilton had 3 sacks in this football game, but at the end of the day, this offense just was not effective. The passing attack, not what you wanted to see. I think Colts have shown they're scrappier than maybe we gave them credit for so far through 3 weeks, but also this was an underwhelming performance from Baltimore after looking so good during week 2. They weirdly looked poor against now Houston and Indianapolis.
Yeah, it was a bizarre game for them. Like you said, they just couldn't get any explosives going. Yeah, there's a storm outside.
Mhm.
Couldn't get any explosives going, like you were saying, especially in the passing game, and just kind of kept Indianapolis in this one, and kept them in it for the Zach Moss show, who
Mhm.
came up with some big plays in this one. And like you said, I mean, it was clearly a penalty. Like they should have got the they should have got the first down there and had an opportunity, but they also had opportunities to win this game regardless. Like Justin Tucker missed a field goal. You don't say Justin Tucker misses that often, but there are some aspects of this that they had opportunities to win. I almost got my dream of neither the Ravens nor the Colts winning, but unfortunately one of them had to win.
This one also felt like it deserved to be a tie.
Yeah, definitely. This needed a tie. We needed a tie this season again. But yeah, I mean, I think you disappointed for the Ravens, but you're not like feeling let down. The Colts kind of grinded their way through this one, and they made a couple big plays at the end that were the difference. So give them credit for that.
Yeah, you think about the two fumbles lost for Baltimore. Indianapolis did not turn the ball over. That's gonna change. That's definitely gonna have an impact if you can win the turnover battle. But it really does feel like Lamar can't do it all himself. He can't, and I thought Lamar played. I think it was the issue with this game. He had 100 yards rushing and a pair of touchdowns, and had some really good rushes in this one. But they're just and I'm not saying he was perfect either, but like that Isaiah Likely drop. Like they're just, it's been kind of the issue and now with Odell hurt, it's sort of like this just feels like the same old Ravens.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this team. I think it feels like every year they're catching the injury bugs. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
right.
mean it.
Well, yeah,
It,
because
it
people are going to say, well, they're hurt, but like they're always hurt.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I really don't. But yeah, I mean, the running game hasn't looked outside of Lamar. The running game hasn't really looked good since Dobbins went down, and I feel like that's been a bit of a problem. And yeah, I mean, I think Zay Flowers is a really good receiver. I think he's going to be good. I think it's hard to ask him to be a number one guy his rookie season though, and be a
Yeah.
consistent number one guy. So I think there's a few things they got to work out this season. Maybe they get aggressive in the trade market if they really feel like this is the team that they can go all in on. But they got a few spots they got to fix, and they got to find a way to stay healthy because we can only keep using the injury excuse for so long, like you keep saying.
Okay. Here's my trade hypothetical that would never happen. How many first round picks to get Justin Jefferson? Like, what about like 3 first round picks?
Is Justin Jefferson more likely than Devontae Adams to be traded?
I wouldn't think so, but I'm just thinking like it
Yeah,
would be like a crazy move.
I think it would take 2 firsts.
I think it might take more than 2. I think they would have to at least throw in like a second also.
I was thinking like 2 firsts and like like if it's Zay Flowers and 2 firsts, is that
Maybe,
possible? That
maybe
feels like
something
such
like.
an NBA trade. NBA trade.
Hmm.
Zay Flowers and 2 firsts for Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd pull the trigger if I'm Baltimore.
Um, yeah, I think I would too, honestly. Did you see the play of Gardner Minshew dropping back into his own end line and then still getting sacked on the play, even though the sack didn't count? That was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that was great. That was very fun. Very good stuff. Yeah, and I'm not worried about Baltimore. I'm really not. I think
Yeah,
it's just a bad game, and they've shown they've done this in the past and then bounce back.
yeah. I still think they're good.
Hmm.
And I mean, they had a little bit of a cushion with the AFC North starting the year, so I still think they're in a fine spot. So I think that is I think they're still a really good team. I'm not worried. I agree.
Yeah, could sting a little bit though as we get further. Let's talk about another shocker on the scoreboard. There's a few of those. Texans, 17, Jaguars 37. Wait, no, the other way around. The Texans blow out the Jaguars. Kyle, what happened here?
We got a juggernaut on our hands, and I think it starts with one thing, and that's CJ Stroud looking like the guy.
Hmm.
He has played very well. I think he had like 380 yards passing last game. Now that some of that was kind of BS, but at the same time, like I think he's played well through 3 weeks. I really think he has, and he's played. We saw that Indianapolis Baltimore game. Those are tough defenses to go up against. And we saw what this Jacksonville defense did to Kansas City last week in their coverage unit. And he has played well against all of them. Through 3 weeks of the season, he is at a 64.5% completion percentage, 900 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think he's played exceptional quarterback for his rookie year. And, I know Anthony Richardson got hurt, so it's not, a little bit of a smaller sample size. And Bryce Young also got hurt, actually, now that I think about it. But he's looked unequivocally like the best of those rookies on the field so far.
Yeah, I mean, we always try to feel like, okay, can't judge a guy by their first year, got to give him time, all that stuff. Sometimes players do come into the league and play good, though. And right now, that's what we're seeing with CJ Stroud. He currently has a pass rating of 98, which, like you said, the 3 defenses he's played have no slouches. Obviously, pass rating doesn't tell the whole story, but I think it matches what he's done. This was a good game. Tank Dell seems like a real guy here. He had 145 of the 280 total yards. Stroud, 4 touchdowns, no picks so far. Through 3 games. I mean, it's funny because he probably looked like the worst in the preseason, potentially. He was making a lot of mistakes, although did show some nice things as well. But yes, I mean, so far he's looked really exciting if you're a Houston Texans fan. You haven't had a player start a career this hot since Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And, there are some positives to take away from this Texans team they are playing well in certain regards. Like you said, Tank Dell has looked like a draft day steal, honestly. He's played really well. And, that's with even last week, I thought Nico Collins played well. I think Robert Woods is pretty steady. All of a sudden, that's a little bit of a receiving core you can kind of build around. They still can't block for Dameon Pierce. I feel bad because it's still like a junior varsity offensive line. But, if those guys get healthy, this could be a pretty interesting offense to watch. And that's coupled with the fact of this defense that I think is actually covering pretty well. And, D'Amico Ryan's, stepping in, defensive coordinator, taking over the head coaching job. I think he's, kind of installed a little bit of life into this defense at least. And, we'll talk about Trevor Lawrence here, but Trevor Lawrence is a guy who's had some really good games in the past, and they played him pretty well this week.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm thinking about the Trevor Lawrence stuff. People keep talking about him. I brought up. I remember after week 1, I tweeted like Joe Burrow had a bad day, Josh Allen had a bad day. I would still take those 2 over anyone who's not named Mahomes. One of the comments I got the most on that was people saying maybe Trevor Lawrence, and it's like, that was the hype for him. It could still happen. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened consistently enough. We see it in spurts. I thought week 1 he played very well against the Colts. If you go back to I thought he played well the second half of that Chargers game in the playoffs. I thought he played well down the stretch of that season just in general. I mean, it was no doubt he played well down the stretch of that season last season. So we've seen it in spurts. But sooner or later, the next phase is asking for consistency, and we're not seeing that consistency. And I think the Jaguars, we got a lot of heat for saying I think I said the Jaguars would win the division at 8-9 or something like that, and that caught heat. And I think you said you weren't, you figured that 8-9 wins too, and
yeah, around there.
I don't know, this looks like a team. Their offensive line's not that good. They got 0 sacks in this game. If you want to do your Trayvon Walker update, go right ahead. I mean, they're not good on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I don't think they're that great at linebackers so far to start this year. And I think they have a good coverage unit, and that seems to be about it so far.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say the Calvin Ridley thing. There was so much hype after week 1, and then weeks 2 and 3 just haven't gotten there yet. And this is a tough loss. I mean, you lost and it was a bit fluky. It was. You lost the turnover battle 2-0. You also gave up a special teams touchdown to a fullback. That's a total broken play. I'm not going to crush you for some of this stuff. I'm not. But if you play this team, when you play them again, I don't think they're going to lose by 20. But this one, it just got away from them, and this can't happen. Also, a super chat. Appreciate that. What happens if the Dolphins crush the Bills next week in Buffalo, 56-31? If the Bills lose by 20 against the Dolphins, Kyle will chug an entire Bud Light to start the podcast next week.
Deal.
Okay. All right. Keep remind us of that. But yeah, I mean, this was, it was just this is not the Jaguars team we were hoping to see. It's still early. Things could turn around. But these things take time. They just do.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's going to take some time. I still feel like this team's the favorite to win this division. And it was not a very good week for the AFC South. So, um, outside of the Colts picking up a win there. So, I think I still think they're the favorites to win this division, but, you can't keep year after year dropping these dumb games.
Yeah.
And I know it's division games. Those, kind of, I guess they mean a little bit more, but you can't keep dropping them. And there's no more excuses when you feel like you should be the favorite. And there are Jacksonville fans who felt like their team was definitively the favorite heading into this season. Then you got to beat the teams that you feel like you're definitively better than.
Yeah, completely agree. There was a very funny Reddit post of someone talked about why is no one talking about first overall pick Trayvon Walker. A lot of people in the comments were like, I thought you were bringing up someone from like the 70s. I didn't even realize. I forgot he was the guy who was drafted just a year ago. It was a fun read.
Did you go down that one?
Yeah, I think I read every
plug in all of your videos, your links.
Yeah, right here. Here's the no. A lot of people still say though like good run defender. It's like it really isn't.
Yeah,
it's kind of a thing that like people said coming out of draft, and then the commentators say just like because that's the thing that people say like hasn't been a great run defender this year.
If you traded him for Tyree Wilson right now, who would say no?
Yeah, Tyree Wilson also not having, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe it's a good idea to draft players who are good at football instead of players who test well.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Might be smart. I don't know. Let's move on before don't get me going too much there. All right, I'm gonna talk about your team, I guess. The Patriots, Jets. Kyle, if Zach Wilson converted that Hail Mary at the end, you'd have had to stop. Like the Patriots would be dead. They would have had to stop as a franchise, shut it down.
I would have probably not shown up to this show.
Yeah,
I think I just would have gone for a long walk and not come back.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I'm done. Like I'm just out. Like it isn't better. This offense, like it's a little better scripted, but at the same time, yes, it feels like you could go, yes, the conditions were bad, but there's always an excuse, it feels like, for making up for this offense. And I do not think that it's all Mac Jones's fault. I don't. And I think we get a little quarterback crazy. And we've talked about it a lot already to start this show. We have gone quarterback insane sometimes. I don't think Mac Jones sucks. Like, I think you could watch him very much compared to like Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, some of these guys who look like panic back there. And there's a different tier. Like he at least looks like he's calm and composed back there. But, I just don't know if he's good enough to run this team. And a lot of it has to do with, I don't think his personnel helps him succeed. And we're drafting guys like, we draft like a Juju Smith-Schuster who's supposed to be this yard after catch machine. And we're running a bunch of like out and comeback routes to the sideline for him and not putting him in positions to actually get yards after the catch, And I just can't keep watching this offense basically run the ball on first down, have a weird pass play on second down, and then try to throw the ball downfield on third down when we don't have a downfield passing game. It's not progressive. It's not interesting. There's no motion. We run the ball all the time. We ran the ball 40 times in this game, and I can't remember a single play action pass. Like, it's just a pathetic display of offensive performance for this team that won its first game of the season, and I just watched it like bumped. And I don't, they have to move on from Mac Jones this offseason because they don't have the personnel to help him succeed. And he's not good enough to run with his personnel. So just, it's time to move on and find something else.
Wow. We'll save that soundbite where when he has 300 yards next week and you're back on the Mac. No mac and cheese?
No mac and cheese this week. Look, I don't think he sucks. I continue to say that. I do think that he makes some good throws, but I mean his downfield passes are just straight up horrible. Like you said, he throws those downfield and they never look like they're going to be completed. It's just hanging in the air. It looks like a punt more than a throw. But like, yeah, I just, you could say, well, he has terrible weapons. He does have terrible weapons. This is not a strong weapon group. but we never had strong weapons. We've never been, outside of getting like the Gronkowski and Randy Mosses, this team hasn't really gone out and got those level of players all that often, and they haven't been able to draft them. Like, I do think a team like Atlanta would be really good for Mac Jones with an interior offensive line who's absolutely nasty, with playmakers on the outside, with a great running back, all that kind of stuff. He'd probably get traded to Atlanta tomorrow and thrive. But we don't have Atlanta's personnel, and that's the difference.
Here's another harebrained trade. What about interdivision trade? Bill Belichick would never do this. Flip them to the Jets.
The Jets don't have any of that stuff either. Outside of Garrett
Wilson. I mean, listen, we're talking about how bad the Patriots offense was. They still nearly had twice as many yards per play as the Jets offense. The Jets do not have a lot going on, but they have one. Zach Wilson has just not played great so far.
No, and I mean, they need to change something. Like, why would you go back to him again next week?
Apparently, Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan have both reached out, so like, hey, you guys want to looking for quarterbacks, and they've said no. Like, they're fine. Like, say Carson Wentz is a much better situation. I still don't fully understand why the NFL just completely said Carson Wentz shouldn't be in the league. He feels like he's better than a lot of the backups out there. Get Carson Wentz, sign him to league minimum, see how it works.
Yeah, I mean, you can give him a shot at least, because I don't know why you would go back to him at this point. I mean, not only was it bad, like his numbers are bad, but you literally have Tony Romo every play highlighting and circling guys that are like, he needs to make this throw here, and his offensive line stinks. His offensive line's really bad. Half of his like the biggest problem with the Jets too, with going back to Zach Wilson at this point, is his receivers this year are worse than last year. Like Lazard and Cobb are significant downgrades to Moore and Corey Davis. Like they just are. And so, he's basically like saying, this throw needs to happen here. This throw needs to happen here. And this guy's so scared back there. He looks terrified. He looks legitimately terrified to step on the football field, because the second he feels any pressure, he's either running backwards or falling down. He legitimately fell down on a play in this game. Like, just fell. Like, it was the most bizarre thing. Like, I don't know how you put this guy back out there to just get killed.
The couple of there's a very highly upvoted Reddit post saying Zach Wilson sacks himself, where it's just basically he just goes into the fetal position at a certain point. The play was on too long and he was scared, I think. There's a play Zach Wilson threw a pass for no gain. And Tony Romo said, there we go. Now Zach Wilson's starting to get the hang of it. It went for no yards. It was just like, that's like, Tony Romo was like just so excited to see him like go through his progressions and make a pass that didn't result in anything. Like, that was such a confidence booster. It might do the Jets some good to have Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback instead, potentially.
Yeah, I think that would help. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough scene for the Jets. Both of these defenses are good. I think just my frustration with this Patriots offense is it felt like there was opportunities to be aggressive in this game, and they just weren't again. They don't trust this offense to be aggressive. And, there was times to throw the ball downfield. And I know Sauce Gardner's great, but you know what? I'm not afraid to say it. Christian Gonzalez was better than Sauce Gardner in this game. Sauce Gardner made a mistake on the touchdown. There was opportunities to throw in this Jets defense, and we just decided not to. We just decided it wasn't, we were going to play the field position battle, which worked because we played Zach Wilson, who's the worst quarterback in the league. But, there was opportunities to go at this defense that is really good, and we didn't take advantage of those.
Yeah. Sauce hasn't had a great start to this season compared to what we maybe expected. Kyle, do the Patriots win another playoff game with Bill Belichick?
No, he should retire too. I'm sick of it. Like, he's coaching games not to lose. He's not coaching games to win. Like, why he's coaching to get this stupid win record, and then he should retire. That's basically what it comes down to. I'm just so sick of watching this. Like, I'm watching we have gone into the gone to the opposing team's territory like 75% of our possessions, and we don't score touchdowns. It's pathetic. So I'm sick of it.
And amazingly, this is how we feel after a Patriots win. which is, again, if that Hail Mary went through, Kyle, I'd be worried for you.
Yeah, I would have just left. I'd still be driving right now. I don't even know where I'd go.
Yeah. All right. Well, several games left to talk about. I don't know. We can go Bears Chiefs. Kyle, did you know that Taylor Swift was at this game? I'm not sure if you caught that. It wasn't mentioned very frequently.
Every NFL reporter mentioned this, which was amazing. Because a team scored 70 points today, and I heard more about Taylor Swift than I did the 70-point scoring team from NFL reporters. It's one thing if it's like Taylor Swift fans, but it was legitimate. Like Adam Schefter tweeted about this more than the Miami Dolphins.
Ian Rappaport at one point tweeted, "There should just be a live feed of Taylor Swift the whole game."
Why would anybody want that? Why would anybody I can't think of anything worse than watching somebody watch a football game.
Haven't we done that?
Well, people listen to us while the game's on.
Right.
It's not. Yeah. They're not watching
I get what
us.
you're saying.
Yeah.
They're not just watching us. They're watching the game and watching us. Yeah.
Could you imagine her doing a simulcast on YouTube? I would love to know. I would love to know Taylor Swift's Justin Fields thoughts, honestly, because honestly, Justin Fields should be sending Taylor Swift a gift basket after this game because nobody talked about how much Justin Fields stunk again because Taylor Swift was at the freaking football game. So that's a good thing for Justin Fields because once again he was just downright awful. He got a garbage time touchdown, so kudos to him. But I mean, at what point do you have to make a change? I know it's only 3 games. I don't want to react to 3 games, but at what point do you make a change?
We have first off a super chat. Matt Nagy revenge game. Yes, it's very funny. Good job. Never. No, you haven't played all. I mean, if it's actually, I did not think Justin Fields was a disaster in this game. To be honest, I thought that this was such a bad situation. It wasn't good, but I think that this game just completely went off the rails right away. I wasn't watching this wow, Fields is holding this team back.
I mean, probably, but a quarterback going 11-22 isn't going. There was a couple drops in there, but at the same time,
wasn't good. I'm just saying, I don't think to me, I thought he matched the team around him. I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, but the team stinks. That's fair. But
Jameis Winston did have more passing yards today than Justin Fields did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sums up this game. All right. I don't know. I just don't know how you bring back both him and or this offensive coordinator next week.
I mean, next season it's done. This is it, unless there's some miraculous turnaround. But I don't know. What else do you have going on? Might as well just keep him here for another. Keep Justin Fields, let him play some more time, and just see what happens.
I guess. I don't know.
You want a good draft pick?
Yeah. You want a good draft pick, but how many times are you going to get blown out to get a good draft pick?
I think 14 more.
Yeah. By the way,
I think that's what they're thinking.
Maybe. Speaking of game, speaking of how much do you want to watch this? Everybody take the Broncos-Bears game off next week. We're not going to talk about it. That's I'm putting that down. I said this last year about one game. I don't remember which game it was. We're not watching Broncos-Bears next week. I don't care who wins.
I think it was, I remember. But that was a primetime game, I think is when we took
it. It was a Thursday night game that I said everybody take it off.
Yeah. And so we made sure to not watch it and not cover it. We made an active effort to do that. Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. We won't cover the Bears-Broncos game. We won't watch it. We'll read about what happens after. We won't watch it.
Yeah. I don't want to watch it. That's going to be horrible. So if you do watch it, more power to you. Don't know why you're doing that. But yeah, I mean, good luck to you.
The Chiefs still played very well. Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Yeah. No real surprises, but still, Kyle, you asked me last week, does Blaine Gabbert play this week? And I jokingly said, I think he's going to come in to start the second half. Almost got it. Mahomes played the first drive of the second half, and then that was it. So amazingly, we were basically right on with that.
Yeah, and Gabbert was horrible.
Yeah, he was really bad.
Gabbert was the
3
worst quarterback in this game, and we just talked about Justin Fields for like 10 minutes. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. But at the same time, yeah, this felt like a get right game for the Chiefs. I don't think everything's perfect. Like, I don't know. It's hard to criticize a game you win 41-10, but it still feels like their offense feels a step off to where it normally is, right? Like, is that fair criticism despite scoring 41 today?
I No, I think the offense. Well, yeah, I kind of know what you mean. Like, I didn't think I wasn't blown away by the Chiefs in this game. Amazingly.
I mean, I still think this defense is nasty. Now, like
Hmm.
the Bears haven't played good offense against anyone, but through 3 weeks, this Chiefs defense looks like one of the better units in the league.
Yeah.
But you know, I expected a game where they were getting, closer to 500 yards of offense compared to what they got to. I don't know. I just felt like I expected a little more like kind of ass kicking out of them, and they just kind of normally kicked ass instead of like super kicked ass.
Yeah. Also have a super chat by Captain Base Pants. So thank you for that. Yeah. But okay. Let's move on. Why don't we?
Yeah.
Some rougher games. Let's do the Thursday night game. Why don't we? The Niners Giants. The Giants kept it interesting for a period of time. Looked for a second like maybe they were going to make a game of it. But then 49ers outscored the Giants 10-0 in the fourth. Kind of ran away with it.
Take contracts out of the equation, just straight up. Brock Purdy for Daniel Jones. Does San Francisco say absolutely not?
Yeah, they say absolutely not. Granted, I'm not sure if the 49ers are going to trade Brock Purdy for anyone. Just like they're not going to mess up with that magic they have going on right now. But yeah, I think Brock Purdy is the better player.
I think he is too, and he looked significantly better in this game.
In fairness, very slight difference in personnel around him too. There's a slightly better situation in San Francisco than in New York.
Yeah, but we keep saying that week after week when it comes to Brock Purdy, and it's like this like taboo thing that we're not allowed to say Brock Purdy's good or something like that, or without quantifying. Well, look at the roster he's on. This roster.
Well, it was more so in comparison to Daniel Jones, who's dealing with like guys who are signing off the street.
Yeah, I completely get it, but at the same time, I think this is not a youth thing. This is more of a bigger picture thing when it comes to evaluating the 49ers. Like, I feel like if you say Brock Purdy's good, you have to say Brock Purdy's good on San Francisco with this roster. I think Brock Purdy's just good. If we're going to give that same credit to Tua, and Tua's roster is loaded on offense, we have to give the same exact credit to Brock Purdy. Yeah. Because I don't think Trent Williams and Teron Armstead, Trent Williams is better, but I don't think the rest of San Francisco's offensive line is really that awesome. And he's doing great things with this team. I mean, he's making all the throws he has to. He has done amazing stuff. He is a legitimately good quarterback right now, playing good football, and the Niners look like a contender because of it.
Joe with a super chat, would San Francisco trade for DJ over Purdy? Definitely not. With you, Joe. There was also like a million yards after the catch in this game, which again, that's part of that is quarterback playing, right? Like you give your receiver a chance to make yards after the catch. This was the Deebo Samuel game. It seems like every week it's a different guy.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Christian McCaffrey has a big game. Like you said, Deebo has a big game. The defense had a big Pittsburgh. And yeah, or Brandon Ayuk also had a big game in that one. So, next week it'll probably be George Kittle. And the week after that, it'll be Elijah Mitchell. And we'll just keep going down the list. Kyle Juszczyk will have 4 touchdowns one game. And, 49ers are rolling, man. This team, it feels like they're going to get off the bus. And, nobody actually gets off buses anymore. Everybody has charter flights. But they're going to get off the bus and drop 30 on everybody. And they literally have dropped 30 on everybody so far. So I don't expect that to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, your pick to win the Super Bowl, looking good. Play Arizona, which we expect to be a win, but we expected that last week, so we'll see how that goes. 4 games left to talk about. How about Falcons-Lions, a game that we thought would be a good game heading into it? I guess it wasn't a disaster. It still was a 14-point game. But the Atlanta Falcons came back down to earth here, only scoring 6 points in this one. In the running back duel of the century, Bijan not the best numbers here. You don't expect them to be a monster every week, despite the fact that, maybe that's what you hope happened. Maybe that's what we thought would happen right away. But the Lions did a very good job stopping the run in this one. Gibbs, with a significant playing time due to an injury, getting to start, looked good. 4.7 yards per carry to Bijan's 3.3. So, okay, there you go. Neither offense was spectacular in this one, but, the Falcons, 2.8 yards per play. I mean, that's the exact same thing that the Jets had, and they scored less points against a defense that I would say isn't as good as the Patriots defense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think Detroit kind of needed this because, we talked about all these new pieces on this defense. It looked pretty good in week 1, but I think Kansas City was a little hobbled. It looked bad in week 2, although that Seattle offense can be pretty explosive at times. And, it seemed like we wanted to see them kind of see if they can beat up and grind out some of these wins. And as we start checking our metaphorical boxes when it comes to Detroit on, can this team compete? Can this team win the division? I think winning games like this sometimes is necessary, even if it isn't sexy. And they managed to win a couple of games this way now, where they're kind of grinding down their opponents, slowing them down, and covering well too. I think they, there was a lot of, they had 7 sacks in this game, and I think there was a fair amount of coverage sacks in those too. And, a couple of those are probably on Ritter needing to get the ball out. But if you're able to cover well, it helps your defensive line too. So I think they're doing some really good stuff all around the field. They've absolutely killed their draft because, like you said, Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't used as much in the passing game this week, but like you said, ran the ball well. Sam Laporta is the best tight end of all time, I guess. And, Campbell and Branch continue to do some really good stuff. Branch looks terrific. He's another one of those defensive rookies who looks like an absolute stud. So you go through this list on the Lions, there was a lot of talk about their draft, and so far it looks like they've killed it. And it's only 3 weeks into the season, but they killed that. Aiden Hutchinson's taken another leap. I mean, this defense looks good. It looks like it's going to be good enough to potentially compete for division title.
Yeah, and a big test next week, or this Thursday, actually, playing the Green Bay Packers. That should be a very fun matchup. Like you said, Hutchinson, 2 sacks. I would probably phrase it as they've got exactly what they want out of the draft. I still think, listen, the Gibbs pick wasn't a good pick. It just wasn't. That's not the right time to draft that player. But he's done exactly what they wanted him to do. And so, they've gotten what they wanted out of it, which is still very good.
Yeah. I think they're hoping for a little more explosiveness going forward, but it seems like he still has that juice to him, right? So I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks here for the Lions as they work all this out. I think the offense, still has a little bit of room to improve upon, especially based on what we saw last season. But you can't really fault a lot of what the Lions are doing right now.
Atlanta coming off a tough loss now after week 2, we kind of both said that we're buying the playoff stock for the Falcons. They play, they play an international game. I'm assuming it's London, but it might be somewhere else, against Jacksonville this upcoming Sunday. That's the 9:30 a.m. game. This is kind of feels like for those 2 teams, that's going to be 2 teams coming off a tough loss and really going to want to make sure they win that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta's still going to have a little more breathing room there just because, both are actually back in bad divisions, so maybe not. But, they had some winnable games on their schedule, and I guess the one thing, their secondary continues to look pretty good, even if they lost this game. This highly paid defense is now performing pretty well, and, the defense was the better unit in this game too, so, if the defense isn't fluky and they continue to play this well, I think, they're going to have some growing pains, it seems like, on offense, and they definitely did in this game. But there might be some opportunities there going forward.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Titans-Browns. We have 3 games left now. The Browns looked like, I believe I picked the Titans to win this game. The Browns, 2 out of 3 weeks, they've looked like absolute world beaters this season. The issue was that, week 2 happened against Pittsburgh. But even in that game, gave Pittsburgh 2 touchdowns and still nearly won it. Amari Cooper was able to get wide open for a touchdown in this one, had over 116 yards. I think the story for Cleveland, their defense is awesome. We kind of know that at this point. To me, the story is like Deshaun Watson. Well, he had one of the worst plays you'll ever see. I mean, he legitimately just threw the ball backwards. And when I say that, it sounds like an exaggeration. That's exactly what happened. Is he just threw the ball backwards? Look that one up. Other than that, I mean, this was easily the best game he's had in the Browns uniform. He looked good.
Yeah, I think the praise has to be as loud as the criticism. And, we were harsh on him last week, and he stepped it up this week. He played a lot better. And like you said, I thought outside of that one play, which they even ended up scoring on that play anyway, on that drive anyways. Outside of that one play, he was pretty terrific in this game, and there's not a lot to fault his game with. 8.8 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I thought he got the ball out well. I thought he hit his receivers on the money too. There was a lot to really like about his game in this one. So kudos to Deshaun. They needed him to step up without Nick Chubb. And, I mean, if they can get this Deshaun, I think they're going to win a lot of games. I mean, I'm still buying in on Cleveland because this defense continues to look incredible. And I thought they looked incredible last week, and I thought they had a hard luck loss. And I thought week 1 they looked incredible too. And this defense continues to look the part of a contending team. And it starts with maybe the best defensive player in the world right now, and that's Myles Garrett. Just absolutely wreaking havoc on whoever he plays. So,
Not Micah Parsons?
Not the best week to argue Micah Parsons.
I got to rub it in, Kyle. I got to do it.
Yeah, especially when the Titans are legitimately like getting delay game penalties, trying to mark up to defend Myles Garrett. Did you see that?
No, I missed that.
So apparently they were having like 2 tight ends rotate over to whatever side Myles Garrett was on. Okay. So at one point, Myles Garrett just kept running back and forth between each side of the line, and the tight ends kept following him. So the Titans basically took a penalty trying to line up because they couldn't line up because Myles Garrett kept going back and forth. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's good. Myles Garrett, good at football. A lot of the offense struggled here for the Titans. In a week where we saw some tough offensive play, Titans ended up with the worst yards per play at just 2.1 yards per play. I mean, that's brutal. Kyle, Ryan Tannehill only 104 yards on 25 attempts. I'm going to ask the question, though. Is Derrick Henry washed? I think we have to start. He's on washed watch, I think, at this point. He's someone who, through 3 games, had 4.2 yards per carry against New Orleans, then 3.2 against the Chargers, who are known for their bad run defense. Now 1.8 versus Cleveland. Cleveland's very good. We get it. But usually he's able to do more here.
Yeah, maybe. We'll keep watching. I mean,
he's on watch, I think. I think the question has to be asked.
The problem is I don't think he's ever going to meet like his best seasons, right? Like it would be insanity to say he's going to rush for 2,000 yards or anything like that, or even 1,500 yards from last year. But I still think he has the goods to be the kind of back. Like he's throwing like he's throwing 93 instead of 98 now, right? Like it's still he still has the big play in him sometimes, but it's not as often. Like I still think he's decent. And I mean, that might crater the whole Titans though. I mean, look at this offensive performance. Like legitimately, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 guys touched the ball in this game. Or no, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys touched the ball in this game on offense, like total. Like I don't know, man. Like I don't like this team. It's just kind of what I've come to through these first 2 weeks. I mean, I know they played well, but the Chargers just might be that team this year where you throw out every passing stat. Because it seems like everybody can throw out on the Chargers. And we gave a lot of credit to Tannehill last week for bouncing back and having better performance. But I don't know. Like, I don't know what to think. I just don't like this team. That's all I could say.
Tannehill in a contract year started off he's basically having an all-time bad contract year to start off, through three games. Had that one good game, but now he's had 2 abysmal performances. Yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing is like Hopkins showed some flashes finally. Like we're starting to see him a little bit more, but I don't know, because part of me is like, is the Browns defense just that good? I think we just need more of a sample size. But yeah, I mean, Myles Garrett, I didn't realize he had 3.5 sacks in this game. Insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's still too much. Like, we need to digest it more because they have played the Saints and the Browns and look bad. Like, those two defenses do look very good, but it's not pretty. It's definitely not pretty. And I just don't know, it's such a fine margin for error the way they play to win games. And I just wonder if everything's just a little bit crappier. Like, are they just going to crater? Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. We'll see. We'll see what happens with those two teams. Let's move on. 2 games left. Panthers Seahawks. Ended up being a game. The Panthers definitely. I'll say this, Kyle. When Bryce Young got hurt, first I was disappointed that Bryce Young got hurt, and then I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I gave you this game to pick on our pick'em show. Made me feel kind of better that Andy Dalton was coming out there. I'll be honest. I felt like they had a better chance to win with Andy Dalton out there. Dalton's not a bad quarterback, and he did some nice things here in this game. I think you still have to be a little concerned about the Seahawks defense. It will not to say that like Carolina was dominant or anything. 5 yards per play. Their overall bulk stats look better, but that's largely due to just running a lot of plays. But as a whole, given what Carolina has done in previous weeks, I think they were able to get something going here. But the flip side is Geno Smith, still has his own issues. He's looking better, running game looking better. So for Seattle, a win here. I guess what do we take away? Do we say Seattle's? I don't think we can fully say Seattle's back just yet, right?
I don't think we could say they're back. They look terrible in the first half. Like they looked legitimately bad against one of the teams we've been saying looks like one of the worst teams in football. And another one of those teams where it's like this coverage unit just doesn't look up to scrap. Like it's one thing if Adam Thielen catches like 7-8 balls, in this one he had 11. You're giving up 13.2 yards per reception to Adam Thielen in the year 2023.
Yeah.
Like that's not good. That's a problem. So yeah, I mean, it seems like the secondary has really regressed. And I just think between that and, the slow starts, it seems like in a couple of these games, I haven't really been thrilled with what I've seen from Seattle in spurts of the season. Although they did manage to get 2 of these wins and the offense has kind of figured itself out as it's gone along. This running back duo with Charbonnet and Walker seems really good. So there are things to like, but I can't say I came away from this game overly impressed for a team that I was pretty high on going into the year.
Yeah. I'm with you. Although one thing I would say is Pete Carroll teams do have a tendency to play better as the year goes on. So we'll see if that happens with Seattle. And they've had some injuries as well, especially like offensive line injuries, but you still expect more. Could this be a good thing for Bryce Young? Get Andy Dalton in there, veteran quarterback who kind of knows how to work on offense. Let Bryce Young kind of see, oh, okay, that's how you make this work.
Yeah, and I was thinking like maybe they should go to Dalton a little bit longer. I think there is some learning to do there for Bryce. I think it wasn't a very great first 2 weeks of his career. So yeah, I think any sort of assistance could probably help.
Yeah, and he had a bad 2 weeks, meaning his career is going to be over. He's going to be a bust and never accomplish anything.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
Speaking of not accomplishing anything, Washington played a football game today. The Washington Balls against the Buffalo Bills. Somehow, Josh Allen with the quarterback, the stat line of 20 for 32, 218 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. It was better than the stat line. Still significantly better as another tough quarterback play game. Sam Howell, 4 picks in this one, no touchdowns. That's tough. Brian Robinson had 70 yards and 10 carries. That'll get it done, but they couldn't run the ball much because they were down. Amazingly, Buffalo went up 16-0 at the half. They're up 16-0 entering the fourth. So it was still kind of a weirdly low-scoring game until the fourth quarter came, and Buffalo, outscored Washington 21-3 there. So it wasn't like the Bills' offense wasn't dominant in this one. I think the Commanders' defense is still good. The issue is just this Bills' defense might be really good.
Yeah, they're at least playing like it. I think the secondary has looked significantly better than it did last season, and there were some questions there. Obviously, we expected eventually some bounce back potential, but there's still some questions there, I think, overall, and they've sort of answered all of them. And so, yeah, I mean, if this secondary is going to play this good, it's really going to help this team as far as overall projection, because they needed something on defense to kind of step up and play better. So that was really good. Yeah, it's like one of those games though where it's like you probably looked at the scoreline and said like, "Oh, Josh Allen was amazing," all that kind of stuff. Wasn't really that great of a game, but yeah, I mean, they felt comfortably in control throughout.
Yeah, and Diggs had 111 yards in this one too. It's like Gabe Davis had one catch for 35 yards. He was their second leading receiver. Trent Sherfield was just 18 yards, was their third leading receiver. So it really was just kind of a few key plays. But I still thought he played well. The issue, I think, the storyline is like, I mean, this was a tough Sam Howell game. It just was. Like this is, I thought he looked good through 2 weeks. This was not good.
Yeah, he has some craziness to him, doesn't he? Like, it definitely feels that. Like, I guess the term is gunslinger, that we use. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some recklessness to his game, but at the same time, it was just bad. It was just a bad performance, I thought, overall.
And it's also maybe, thinking back weeks 1 and 2, playing Arizona and Denver, maybe not the two toughest teams to play against in hindsight.
Yeah, no, not at all. So I don't know. This felt like the fraudulent team at the first 2 weeks. They definitely played like the fraudulent team at the first 2 weeks. Tough game next week against Philadelphia, although they did beat them last year.
Yeah.
I think we're going to learn a little more about this Washington team and if they can actually compete for a playoff spot.
Okay, so if they're the fraudulent team, that means the Buccaneers are not the fraudulent team, and we're going to win tomorrow night.
Yeah. Get that W. Rooting for you guys.
Let's hope so. Yeah, that'll be fun.
You're the only team to not commit a turnover this season.
the notoriously good at protecting the football, Baker Mayfield led Buccaneers.
Yeah, of course. Just as I thought, Baker Mayfield would not turn the ball over before everybody else.
Yeah. So what he does? No turnovers in the bakery this year.
We'll see how it goes next tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. We got two, I think, pretty decent games on deck. Should be plenty of excitement. Hopefully Joe Burrow plays.
Yeah, hopefully Joe Burrow plays. Hopefully the Eagles don't. Maybe they'll just forfeit.
Maybe.
All right. Well, Kyle, let them know you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline podcast. That should be available. Kyle, any final thoughts?
No, looking forward to Monday night. Looking forward to week 4. Let's get after it. Everybody enjoy their work week. Let's make some things happen.
Yeah. Also, what is Twitter? Yeah. Do I have to start calling it X? I think I think we still call it Twitter, right?
I'm not calling anything X.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. And of course, as always, how do I end the show? Why do I forget this? Have a good one.
Peace.